would have been fascinating to be there at the Pharisees' table where Jesus came with his disciples, and how Jesus comported himself and what he said. And this is only one of the probably many, many things that he said and the examples that he set. He's probably very quiet in his manner, but one thing he did say was he taught them about humility. Imagine teaching the Pharisees about humility, which was pride was probably one of their number one faults, and here he is teaching them humility, teaching the leaders of the Jewish people how to be humble and how to have a banquet, and how to be seated at the banquet, and who to invite at the banquet, and how to act and take the lowest place, not the place of honor. And wouldn't that be great if the leaders did that kind of thing? And so Jesus was bringing a revolutionary doctrine to the leaders of Israel, who didn't really know much about humility. The leaders need to, really, Christianity has brought this teaching of humility to the world. Christianity and Catholic faith continues to preach humility, the doctrine of humility, which is contrary to the teachings of the world. But it is embarrassing to be prideful and then to be humbled, to be humiliated, to advance yourself and then to be, and then nobody would give you regard, not to have other people think of you as important as you think yourself to be, as the leaders can sometimes be of our world. But our Lord is teaching us to be humble. And humility is one of the many virtues. To be virtuous means to make an effort to do something. Instead of just doing whatever you feel like doing, doing what comes. You go to a party and you just do what you feel like doing. Do what happens. React to things that happen to you. Have as much fun as you can. Drink as much as you can. Say whatever jokes come to your mind. Do whatever, look at whatever is there to see. All of that, and just go with the flow. Go whatever strikes your feeling. But virtue is the opposite. Virtue is, I'm going there to do good things. I'm going there to say purposeful things. I'm going there to restrain myself, what I look at and what I do and who I talk to and what I say. It's a restraint. Virtue is restraint, but it's also a purposeful doing or saying or acting. Virtue is a purposeful life. I'm in control of myself. I am the king of myself, and I guard myself, and I'm aware of my weaknesses, and I'm trying to pattern myself on virtue, on the teachings of Jesus, on the Christian life. I'm purposefully doing everything, and that's the Christian life, to live purposefully rather than reacting to things or doing whatever I feel like, or following whatever but anybody else is doing. I'm following Jesus and modeling myself after him. And humility is one of those virtues. We have to actively practice it, not like, oh gee, I wish I was humble. I wish I was like a child. I wish I did this and that. I wish God made me that way, or I was that way, so that people might like me. Instead of disliking me because of my arrogant manner, my prideful ways. Humility is that effort. Those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves. So how are we going to humble ourselves? How are we going to humble ourselves? We can think of intellectually. In my mind, I need to think humbly about myself, which involves a number of different things. Noticing my weaknesses, noticing my dependency on God, dependency on other people, seeing the weaknesses of my character, and I need to pray for strength to to practice virtues instead of following my weak habits, which they may be, thinking of those things, thinking that I am totally dependent on God, or my time here at this party is going to go bad because I'm gonna forget myself, I'm gonna do things wrong or say things wrong, or drink too much or eat too much or whatever. I need to think, I need to remember to pray, I need to remember that I'm dependent on God, that I am weak, or if I say something wrong, that I'm ready to admit it, I'm ready to say I'm sorry, I'm ready to correct myself. Those things to think about other people, think about, I'm not any better than anybody else, we're all in the same dignity. I'm perhaps worse than other people in many ways. These things we need to think about, and that's one way of humbling ourselves, thinking about what I really am before God and my neighbor and before myself, all of my weaknesses, all of my faults and sins. I need to be thinking about these things, thinking about God, thinking about the needs of my neighbor and putting my neighbor first instead of myself. There's a lot of things to think about when we're trying to humble ourselves, but there's other physical things we can do to humble ourselves too. I can go to the poor, I can go to the handicapped or the less popular. I can spend my time with them rather than the leading popular people around me. I can go to talk to them. I can take care of other people. I can spend my time caring for other people, my elderly relative, or anybody who may be in need. I can spend my time to doing those things. I can sacrifice myself in those things. I can do menial tasks. I can clean the bathrooms. I can sweep the floor. I can clean the house. I can wash the dishes. I can do those things that maybe we consider not as dignified to my, I can clean, I can sacrifice my time to do those things, or the menial tasks, the things that other people don't want to do. I can do those things, physically do those things, and then when we do physically humbling things, we can think, helps us to think more humbly. And, just looking at ourselves, reflecting on ourselves. When we have time in adoration, time after Thanksgiving and communion, time when we're praying the rosary, time we think about ourselves and all the things we need to improve on, what I need to improve on, all the things that I need to do. And then when I feel like judging other people, oh, this person does this or that, this person is this way or that way, remember the finger. You point at others, you got 3 fingers pointed at yourself, you got maybe more faults than they do. Those who are really judgmental of other people tend to be probably worse than they are. That judgmental character, because those who are so busy judging other people are not judging themselves enough. So when we catch ourselves judging other people, we say, maybe I'm worse, maybe I do the same things, maybe I do worse things. We always have to be thinking about ourselves and all the things we need to improve on and do better. All these things. Think humbly, act humbly, be humble, let it be part of your character. Spend time with children maybe. See the beauty of the character of children, their demeanor, the way they think, and copy them and the good things that they do, and their character, their humility, their dependency and trust and faith and obedience when they're disciplined, their love, their dependency, all these things that we need to do with God. We need to be humble with God, with ourselves, and our relationship with God, ourselves, and neighbor. So many things, so many ways to be humble, to act humbly, to be humble, to be like a child. You're not going to squeeze through the gates of heaven unless you're like a child, as Jesus said. So we want to, do what we can and pray for the grace of humility all the days of our life. God gives grace only to the humble. Only to the humble does He give grace, and the more humble we are, the more grace He will give us. The more happier we will be if we are humble. The stronger we will be if we are humble. Remember too, the false ideas of humility. Oh, humility is weakness. Humility is letting other people walk all over us. Humility is weakness. Humility is, not strong, but it's the opposite. Humility is strength because we depend on God and He gives us the strength to act. Doesn't mean being a stepping mat, but it means standing up for the truth, standing up for other people. And we will have the strength to do it because God will give it to us because we are humble. We depend on Him. So we need to put out of our mind the false ideas of humility and look at the real models of humility, Jesus and Mary and the saints and those around us who are humble yet strong and dependent on God.